Hi, everybody. So this is really exciting. We are here to have our latest episode of his picks, her picks, and we are talking about Sherlock Holmes today. This is going to be really fun. We're talking about the Basil Rathbone Sherlock Holmes, and we're talking about Jeremy Brett uh, uh, Sherlock Holmes. And so it's going to be really fun. My friend Richard is here with me. You want to say hi?
Hello.
Yeah, and
So we're doing things a little differently this time because all the things we're looking at were about an hour long. So
yeah,
we could do like two of each.
right, and we're doing technically my pick with Jeremy Brett is television, but it has a cinematic feel to it. I think.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. So particularly with the amount of detail put into production, I was quite impressed they were able to do so much on the budget that they must have had.
Yeah, exactly, and we had seen all the other pretty much all the other Sherlock Holmes versions. So this was just going to be really fun. And I don't know, what's your sort of history with Sherlock Holmes? Like, is this something you've been a big fan of?
I really love Sherlock Holmes. Yeah. I think the first time I was introduced to the character was the Basil the Mouse Detective.
Okay.
Yeah. And and then I just must have picked up various versions along the way. I remember there was this cartoon called Sherlock Holmes in the 22nd Century.
I haven't heard of that.
Saw that. Yeah. It was like Sherlock Holmes being brought back to life in the future, and Dr. Watson is a robot, and that. And then and then I got a whole anthology of the Arthur Conan Doyle stories at one point and read them all. And so I've seen a few different versions, and I got into these Basil Rathbone ones through this podcast that I'd heard about them called the Secret History of Hollywood. And so I got the box set of the films, and I thought they were really great.
Cool. Yeah, my dad does not watch any television or movies hardly at all. But the one thing that he made sure that he taped back in the day was the Jeremy Brett Sherlock Holmes, and we would watch it, and so that was sort of how we got kind of started on my family just like loving anything Sherlock Holmes. And we loved the Great Mouse Detective. Oddly enough, I don't ever remember really watching much of the Basil Rathbone, which is surprising. You think that we would have, but maybe we did and I just forgot. But we would have long debates where we talk about the Robert Downey Jr. versions, which none of us liked. None of us liked those versions.
Yeah. I did like the first one, but not so much the second one.
Oh yeah, second one especially. But it just felt more like I'm just not a big fan of Guy Ritchie's style, and I felt like he was trying to turn it into a Victorian James Bond instead of Sherlock Holmes. Like I didn't like the action elements to it. It just didn't feel like Sherlock Holmes to me. So what have you thought of the Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock?
I really liked the first three seasons. I thought they were very enjoyable. I always watched them, but there's the last season that went a bit too far for me.
Yeah,
it got quite silly, to be honest. A little bit over the top.
Yeah, agreed. It didn't even feel like Sherlock Holmes at all. By that point, it felt like, to me, a cheap horror movie. Like I really hated it. I thought it was awful. But yeah, for the especially first two seasons, I was really into it. I really thought it was great. And then it got kind of gimmicky, which was unfortunate. But he's great in the role with as Sherlock. So hopefully maybe they'll come back and redeem themselves.
Maybe. I bet Stephen Moffat wants to do Dracula now.
Oh yeah. Oof. I've become Stephen Moffat has become one of my least favorite people in Hollywood. I don't like the way that he's too gimmicky for me. He's always trying to like twist-a-roo and whatever, and I don't like that.
Yeah. He did do one series on Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde at some point, but I never watched that.
What's it called?
It's just called Jekyll, I think.
Oh, Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, he has had some good Doctor Who episodes and
Oh yeah.
things like that, but he's also had a lot of gimmicky
Yeah.
Doctor Who
His,
episodes too.
yeah.
So,
His best episodes were when he wasn't the showrunner and he was doing these individual stories for each season.
mm-hmm. Right,
Mm.
right. Well, cool. Okay. Well, let's talk about your two choices first. How about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I hadn't seen either of these films. These were starring Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce as Holmes and Watson. And let's talk about Sherlock Holmes Faces Death first. And this is just over. Both of these are just over an hour,
Mm-hmm.
and they're probably part of a lot of movies from this era were about an hour because they'd make a part of sort of a double feature when you go to the theater. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people would spend the whole day at the theater, and you'd see 4 or 5 movies just stacked on top of each other, and you'd see like newsreels in between the different or little animated shorts were popular. That's how Disney and other people got started, was because in between all these features they'd have these little animated shorts, so it's just interesting because you think of that era, that a lot of, why are these movies all so short? That's why. But Sherlock Holmes Faces Death, that was 1943.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and it's basically an adaptation of the Musgrave Ritual.
Yeah, it's not a direct adaptation. It's kind of inspired by it.
Yeah, and loose adaptation, they say. So, what did you think about? I guess tell us maybe a little bit about it, and what did you think about it?
Well, basically, it should be said that this movie actually takes Sherlock Holmes out of the Victorian setting and puts it in the 1940s. That was something the Universal Studios did because then they could save a bit of money on period sets and costumes, and also the first few movies that Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce did for Universal, the Nazis were the villains.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then they made this one, which was more of a mystery, but still set in the 1940s. So in this film, it takes place at Musgrave Manor, which is being used for the recuperation of wounded soldiers in England, and Dr. Watson is based there, and his assistant gets attacked, and so he calls Holmes to come and investigate. And while Holmes is there, the two members of the Musgrave family who live in the manor are both killed, and we have Holmes trying to figure out who's behind all this and why.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you think about it on the rewatch or watching it?
I really enjoy it. It is one of the best of the Rathbone films. Having seen them all in this box set, it's definitely one of the best ones. And I think the fact that we have this proper whodunit really works in the film's favour, and also the setting that they have with Musgrave Manor, this quite spooky old house, and the fact you see all these different characters behaving suspiciously, so you don't know exactly who's behind it all.
Yeah, I really, maybe it's just because coming off of Sherlock not that long ago, I really enjoyed how these were like cases, again, and because they've totally lost that completely in Sherlock, and
about that.
Yeah, and I thought that it was really fun, especially towards the end when he starts to kind of outwit the bad guy. That you see him sort of putting all of the pieces together, and you think that he's like crazy. Like, what are you doing? Why are you putting yourself in danger? Like, what are you doing? And he's got it all figured out. That's what's great about Sherlock Holmes, is that's why I don't really like the whole action element of the Robert Downey Jr. ones, is because that's not, to me, Sherlock Holmes is great because his superpower is his brain. Yeah. He's not an action hero. And I just love when he's the smartest guy in the room, I guess.
Yeah, it's all about his deductive skills, isn't it? The Robert Downey Jr. films, they place more emphasis on the action and the fighting. even though there is a little bit of deduction there. But this is probably based on him figuring things out.
Yeah.
Except for just a little bit of a fighting at the end.
Yeah, and I liked I thought that it was sort of surprising who the villain ended up being, because there's a lot of red herrings in here.
Yeah.
And I thought that it worked. It was kind of a surprise.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure. I did notice that that the villain he was behaving a little bit suspiciously during the chess game that Sherlock set up, but I wasn't quite sure until the actual reveal.
Right. Yeah. So I thought that was good, and you're right. It sort of has a creepy sort of haunted house kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of sort of the curse of the Musgraves is well done.
Yeah, particularly with the beginning when they first come to the manor and the wind is blowing so ferociously.
Yeah.
And the way it looks on the trees, it looks quite unnerving.
What do you think of Nigel Bruce's version of Watson?
Yeah, I do like him. I mean, this is the there was this series that kind of made Watson into more of a buffoonish character.
Yeah.
Whereas in the original stories, he's a bit more level-headed. But from what I've heard about it, it felt kind of exaggerated because this version of Watson, he's a little bit clumsy. He's clearly not as clever as Holmes, but he's not like a total idiot. He's not quite in the same league as Inspector Lestrade is portrayed here, because he's definitely a comic relief character, and so I think he does well to give Watson providing a bit more humour and a bit more of an everyman compared to Holmes. Yeah,
he's definitely more sort of a buffoon kind of type compared to other versions of Watson.
Yeah. He just kind of looked the part in that way, Nigel Bruce. Quite heavy set. Yeah.
And I wonder if there was just something about the way like comedy was done, I wonder what, the reason was for the 1940s, why that particular version was done. It'd be interesting to know.
Yeah, maybe it was just that they felt it worked well for a kind of mainstream cinematic approach.
Yeah. So what do you think of sort of the ending of it?
I thought the ending was good, except for obviously it is very risky for Holmes to put himself in danger, I should say. And you kind of see him saying he's going to go away to Newcastle and get the equipment that he needs. You kind of wonder if he's actually planning something, if he's got something else in mind, like he does in The Hound of the Baskervilles when he pretends to go away to lure the killer out.
Yeah.
And then we get this mystery where somebody's trying to get Watson out of the way. And I think I think the climax certainly worked.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of cool, especially if you think of 1943, Sally, that she destroys the bond.
Yeah.
And so she chooses family and her relationships over being rich and the money. And
it's nice this little monologue that Holmes gives at the end about the new spirit abroad in the land of charity. He tends to do that in these films, Basil Rathbone. I think in one film he actually gives a monologue at the end about how nice Canada is.
Oh, interesting.
In a film where I think it's The Scarlet Claw, where the film is set in Canada.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I have it here. It says, "There's a new spirit abroad in the land. The old days of grab and greed are on their way out. We're beginning to think of what we owe the other fellow, not just what we're compelled to give him. The time's coming when we shan't be able to fill our bellies in comfort while other folk go hungry, or sleep in warm beds while others shiver in the cold. When we shan't be able to kneel and thank God for blessings before our shining altars while men anywhere are kneeling in either physical or spiritual subjection, and God willing, we'll live to see that day."
Yeah.
So there you go. Yeah. I didn't realize that he gave sort of a motivational speech kind of at the end of a lot of these.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the films before that were involved the Nazis, and this is when the war was still going on. So so he would do things like that.
Okay. What do you think of Nigel Rathbone's version of Holmes in general?
Well, yeah, I think I think I used to consider Jeremy Brett my favourite, but I think he kind of just beats Jeremy Brett in my mind. He seems I know we're going to be talking about Jeremy Brett later, but he seems a little bit more human and less detached than Brett does.
Yeah,
I suppose Brett is truer to the book. But he controls the room when he's there, and but he is still very friendly and very charismatic and shows a lot of enthusiasm. I think that probably the portrayal of Basil in The Great Mouse Detective probably drew a lot from Rathbone.
Definitely, for sure. And yeah, you definitely see that. And I don't know, it's very very classic, but I found him very, very charismatic, and that's what you need from this kind of Sherlock Holmes. And so yeah, he was great. I really enjoyed it a lot, more than I thought I would, to be honest.
Yeah.
I thought he was just owned the screen, to use cliche.
Yeah.
So okay, cool. Should we of these two that you picked, which one's your favorite?
I like Face's Death a bit more than The Spider Woman, but they're both among my favorites of all the ones I've seen.
Okay. Yeah. I think I liked Spider Woman just a little bit better, but I really enjoyed both. So
yeah, I would recommend the Hound of the Baskervilles as well, which is the first one that Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce did together. But I didn't pick that one because that was like a direct adaptation of the story. It's a very faithful adaptation, and I kind of wanted you to see more of the typical films that the Universal were doing with Rathbone and Bruce.
Cool. Yeah. All right, so maybe let's do one of mine, and then we'll go back to one of yours. We'll go back and forth. Does that sound good? Yeah. Okay. All right. So the one that I picked is probably one of my favorites of Jeremy Brett. Was The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, and it's The Speckled Band. And this is a pretty straightforward adaptation of the story.
Yeah.
And it's about this woman who comes and visits Sherlock. She is very upset. Her stepfather is this brute of a man who has allowed these like gypsies to come stay all over their house. And there's this room next to his room that her sister had been sleeping in, and she had died in the middle of the night. Well, she ended up having to stay in that room, and she started hearing strange noises. So she comes and finds Sherlock because she's so scared. And that's where he starts to try to figure out what's going on. What are these noises? And I think that this is really strong for a lot of reasons. I think that that it does really well of sort of building all of these clues. You kind of know that the stepfather's up to no good, that he's the villain in here. But I feel like it's kind of genuinely pretty surprising how it all sort of plays out. And I think that the woman character, she's really strong. I think that she's somebody that it's not just sort of a damsel in distress kind of performance. She actually is a really, I think, pretty strong, confident character. And that I like her performance, the actress's performance. And I don't know, I just think this one is really, really good. And I think that Jeremy Brett's great in it, and it just builds tension really well. And I don't know, what do you think of this one?
I certainly enjoyed it a lot. It was I did go back and look at the original story after I watched it. It's maybe not quite as good as if you didn't know the story and you knew what the solution was. But you're right, it is the story itself. It is very faithfully adapted, and it kind of. And I think, and certainly the best thing about it was the tension, I thought, with Holmes and Watson waiting to see exactly what's going to happen in the later stages.
Right. Well, and there's some degree of like tension of that Holmes could get hurt by this guy because he's just such a brute.
He's a nasty piece of work. Yeah, you can see that.
Yeah. And
you can see he's involved somehow. It's all just about figuring out exactly what he's done.
Yeah, and he comes to Baker Street and threatens them, challenges them. So that's a really great scene, I think.
Yeah, I do like that bit where he's bent the poker and Holmes just bends it back.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah,
and it builds tension pretty well. And you've got like an actual fight that Holmes has to be in, which is really good. And I don't know, I just wouldn't have guessed the snake. And you get all of these little clues that Holmes sort of dissects, where you've got the servant bell that doesn't lead to anywhere. You've got the fact that everything's bolted down. There's just all these little clues that you kind of have to put together. That most people would never notice, and that's what's great about Sherlock Holmes.
I thought it was a strange thing for when a woman's sister is about to die. She says it was a speckled band. It's a bit of a strange thing to say, isn't it? When you've been bitten by a snake. Yeah,
you think you'd say it was the snake.
Yeah.
That's true. I hadn't thought of that.
I would say that it's not entirely biologically accurate, because A, snakes don't actually drink milk, and B, they don't have external ears, so you wouldn't be able to train one with a whistle because it wouldn't be able to hear it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Didn't know that. Huh. Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
But it works.
Yeah.
The story. Interesting. All snakes?
Yeah. No snake has external ears. They can hear vibrations produced by sound, but not sound that's traveling in the air.
Oh. Huh. Interesting. Okay. And I don't know, because some of the women can be kind of dopey. Of course, you have Irene Adler, who's really great in Sherlock Holmes mythology, but I think that she is one of the better ones. I also really like the blue carbuncle woman. That it's in there.
Remember that was one with the Christmas goose, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's good. And also I like what's it called? The one with the lady who's hired as the governess.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of those.
There was has to wear the dress. And
that was a good one. I can't remember what it was called. There was another governess story, the solitary cyclist, which I thought was good. That was a good female character.
Yeah. Oh, what's that one? I can't remember. But yeah, those are really good. And so they just do a great job. Even the music, I just really like this. This is from season 1, episode 6. So this is when he was at prime. Towards the later end, you can tell that Jeremy Brett was in poor health and it wasn't quite as good. But I still can find entertainment in those seasons.
Did he die? I have to after filming the last episodes then?
I think so, but I'm not sure. But you can just tell that, I don't know, he looks sort of a little bit puffy and it just doesn't look that well in some of those later seasons. He died in 1995. When was the last season? Was in 1994. So yeah, it's soon after. But he just was born to play. It was one of those instances of the person it was born to play the part.
Yeah, like I said, he does seem to reflect the Holmes from the books really well. You can see how he seems quite detached a lot of the time, but then he gets very enthusiastic at the prospect of this mystery.
Yeah,
and I like the way he sits as well, quite with his hands behind his head, like that.
Yeah,
and this mannerism when he's questioning this, and like he is basically running a business. You seem that way. Yeah. No, he does, and he has this sort of intensity, but also all the classic mannerisms of Sherlock Holmes. And he's just, you see why because some of the versions of Sherlock Holmes, he's more like a sort of a Sheldon Cooper type, where you're like, boy, this person is very hard to get along with and very difficult and whatever. And I get that version, but in this one, you totally see why Sherlock Holmes would be somebody you'd want to why you'd be drawn to him, I think, in this version. Yeah.
So
Also, I'm not sure Watson kind of gives as much of an impression in this. I mean, he's still kind of the everyman character, and he has some.
yeah.
You can see some qualities still like being a little bit awkward, I mean, this episode he wanted to make sure he would be fed, but it's maybe a bit difficult to translate him because he's the first person narrator in the original story. He's telling us what Holmes is doing because basically we're there for Holmes.
Yeah. Well, and there were two different Watsons in the series. I think that both the ones I picked have the same one though. I forgot, but anyway, this one has David Burke, but then there was another one. I don't know I think later on, I forget who it was, but anyway, so yeah, it was just very entertaining, and it was just something we watched these a lot as a kid. And it started in 1984 and went until 94, so 10 years, decade playing a role. It's pretty good. Yeah. So
yeah, I wonder if you ever got tired of it, because Basil Rathbone eventually left the Sherlock Holmes film series because he was tired of being typecast. Yeah, he had a real difficulty with that.
I probably is my guess, because you probably would get sort of typecast because he didn't really do anything else during. I'm looking at his IMDb.
Is that Jeremy Brett? Or?
Yeah, Jeremy Brett during those years. There's really nothing else but Sherlock Holmes during that whole decade. There's a couple things. Like he was on an episode of The Love Boat in 1984. There were a few little things, but nothing much. And but yeah, I mean, of course, you can see Jeremy Brett in My Fair Lady, playing.
That.
Oh, you've never seen My Fair Lady?
No, I'm not the biggest fan of musicals.
Oh, okay. Well, he plays Freddie Highmore in My Fair Lady. He sings the song "On the Street Where You Live." Anyway, it's a lot of fun. It's just so funny to see him in the totally different kind of role, because Freddie is a very needy, he's very weak character, so it's very different than Sherlock. So all right, well, so let's talk about Sherlock Holmes and the Spider Woman.
Okay.
For a little bit. So this film I guess was also from 1943.
Yeah, I think it was one that immediately followed the Face's death.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. So this is really interesting. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. Well, basically the story, it's actually kind of an original story that uses a number of different elements from different Holmes stories. It starts off with all these suicides going on in London from men who were just locked up in their bedrooms and just suddenly decided to commit suicide. And meanwhile, Holmes and Watson are on holiday in Scotland, and Holmes tells Watson he's not going to investigate this because he's actually dying. He's having a hemorrhage, and soon after that he falls off a cliff and apparently dies. And so we get these few minutes where he appears to be there, but then he suddenly turns up again in disguise. And he explains it again. He's done that to kind of make get the killer to let their guard down, because it turns out these pajama suicides are actually murders being committed by this woman called Adria Spedding, I think her name is. And so Holmes starts investigating. He goes to talk to Spedding in disguise, and tries to kind of become her next victim. And he finds out she's getting these men to commit suicide by putting a spider in their rooms, like with the speckled band. Mm-hmm. And then we get this kind of cat and mouse game where Holmes is trying to catch Spedding out and she's trying to do away with him.
Yeah, I really like that. I think it's one of the best original story Sherlock Holmes original stories that I've seen. I wouldn't have even known, I don't think, that it wasn't an actual Conan Doyle story if I didn't know Conan Doyle pretty well. And I just really enjoyed this from start to finish. I thought that she was great, a great villain. It kind of reminded me of Irina Adler a little bit, just in her how smart she was and her confidence against Holmes and some of the different things.
Yeah, a lot more evil, certainly more evil than Irene Adler, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, some people, there's different ways in which people portray Irene Adler, and you get stuff like in the BBC series where she's more of a villainous character. Where I think in the original story she's just kind of in opposition to Holmes without really being properly evil herself. But I kind of think I really think it's the villain that really makes this story. So Spedding is just really, really great. Just how kind of charming and smiley she is when she's planning to kill somebody, and hardly ever seems to lose her cool at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this would be a really good one to actually, if they are going to do another Downey one, I think this is the story that they should adapt. I think this would fit really well with that aesthetic. But I thought that it was really just fun. It was fun all the way through. I thought his coming back to life was really fun. Yeah. And especially like Lestrange's reaction was hilarious.
Yeah.
And
what did you think of the fact that they decided to pretend to kill off Holmes in the first few minutes? Did you?
I loved it. I thought that was super fun. Like, obviously, you know that it's not real, and so I don't know. It's just it was just really to see him in that. I love it when he's in like the makeup and coming. I thought that was very enjoyable.
Yeah, Rathbone is in disguise a lot as Holmes. He does like that. You eventually start kind of looking out for him when you watched a few films.
Yeah, because like in the Sherlock series, he comes back to life like that, but it's made like a way bigger deal, so it's kind of feels sort of gimmicky, and it feels kind of mean too. It's sort of mean spirited. Whereas this, it's just so quick and it's so that he doesn't.
It's just a few minutes and you kind of know it's not going to stick.
Yeah. So it's just fun.
You kind of wonder if maybe shocked audiences a bit in 1943.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Probably.
Yeah. You mentioned the BBC series. There's this bit in the film where this man comes to visit Holmes and he's wearing dark glasses and this wig and Watson thinks it's Holmes in disguise. I thought that was a very funny scene.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of this basically equivalent scene in the first episode of the BBC series after Sherlock has come back, where Watson got this guy in his doctor's office and he's like, "It's not even a good disguise, Sherlock. Where'd you get it from? A joke shop?"
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. That's true. Yeah, and I really like the lady who plays the Spider Woman. I thought that she, I guess, name is Gail Sondergaard. Yeah. She had I think an old school Hollywood kind of feel to her. I thought she was very had a lot of charisma.
Yeah,
matched up with Basil.
Yeah, definitely the kind that really fits into this sort of era, isn't it?
Yeah. Exactly.
You know what? Sally Musgrave in in Sherlock Holmes Faces Death. I thought she kind of showed to be a bit more of a stronger female character with what she does at the end with burning the gram. But aside from that, she's a bit traditionally dramatic and weepy.
Yeah.
But this is a very different kind of female character, and I really like it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It kind of reminded me of like Greta Garbo or somebody like that from that era.
Yeah. I think I just I think I'd heard that Gail Sondergaard, she actually appeared in another film called The Spider-Woman Strikes Back, which I haven't seen it, but apparently it wasn't the same character as such. It was kind of the same kind of character, because people had been sort of taking over performance in this film.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. She's just very strong. She's very commanding. She's really good, and so I like this whole sort of conceit of all of these people like committing suicide and why and what's the connection and like that's just interesting and it's a really good hook to get you into the story. I think. Yeah.
Like Faces Death, the whole thing is a bit more linear, isn't it? It's mostly set in one place. There's like this one mystery, but this kind of goes a bit back and forth with what the characters are doing and the details that Holmes is trying to solve.
Mm-hmm.
Like first he figures out who's behind it, and then he has to figure out the details of how they've been doing it. and goes to various places
Yeah.
like the entomologists.
Yeah. So there's sort of different each sort of level along the way. There you sort of follow Holmes, and
Yeah.
I really like anything with sort of a circus motif. I always think that's fun,
Yeah.
and I thought that this whole fairground, this whole thing, the final act, I guess, was so good. It was very well done, and especially this whole conceit of this shooting game, and she, straps Holmes to this game, and here Watson is going to be playing the game, and so he could potentially shoot Holmes. So that whole scene and he's like trying to break the bands, and he just builds tension really well. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, and it's really only by pure chance that Holmes survives at all, because if Watson had just been concentrating a bit more, he would have killed him.
Right. Yeah.
And then you have the conceit of the fact that Holmes allows himself to get trapped again. He puts himself in danger and almost dies as a result.
Yeah.
It's maybe just like his own arrogance in a way.
It was a really fun set piece, I thought, and worked really well. And just the whole conceit of the possibility of Watson shooting Holmes was really good.
I know,
yeah. So, I like I said, I liked this a little bit better than the other one, but I really enjoyed both of them a lot more than I expected to. Well, I don't know why, because I love Sherlock Holmes, so I should have expected.
Yeah.
But
would you say that they've aged well?
I think so.
From the 1940s.
I do. I think so. I think it's not like one of those movies where I'm like, wow, it's like so beautifully shot. I mean, it's fine. It's certainly adequate, but it's a serviceable filmmaking, I would say.
Yeah.
But it was just, I found him so charismatic. I found Basil Rathbone so entertaining, and I thought that both of them just were classic detective stories, which I like.
Yeah, I mean, just apart from the fact that I think maybe the use of the pygmy is slightly politically incorrect. That's how we're seeing these days. But aside from that, it's still very watchable today.
Right. Exactly. I mean, I've watched this a million times over the Sherlock season 4. I'll tell you that right now. So I really enjoyed it, and like I said, just the whole conceit of this spider that makes you commit suicide is very good. It's very, very, very fun. So okay, so let's talk about the last one here. So the other one that I picked for this Jeremy Brett side is called The Man with the Twisted Lip. And I don't know if this is one of most people's favorites, but I've always really liked it. I think it's very clever. It's from the season 3, episode 5. And this is basically, the story is this woman her husband has been missing for several days. She ends up in this part of London, and she sees her husband out of in this like horrible part of town, this horrible thing, and sees him through a window, and she tries to find him, but they claims, oh, there's nobody up there, it's just this beggar man. And so she goes to Holmes to try to figure out who that man was and where her husband is, and she even gets this letter from him, and so he has to kind of track it down and figure out who where her husband is and who the man with the twisted lip is. And I don't know, what do you think of this one?
I thought it was very well made, but I was a little bit dissatisfied with the mystery, because we're not really kind of solving the mystery along with Holmes. We're just kind of given the situation, and then Holmes figures it out by himself and then reveals it.
Okay.
But again, the way it was produced was really good. You get this very rich, authentic London environment. You can always see people doing stuff in the background.
Yeah.
And the dirty streets and the rough people. That all seems very authentic. And like I said, I was very impressed that they were able to do that with the kind of budget you normally get for British television.
Yeah, agreed. And I just thought that, I don't know, to me it was always sort of surprising that I love the scene when he storms into the jail, Holmes, and gets and starts wiping
Yeah.
away, and you realize, oh my gosh, he's the man. Like,
Yeah.
he's been hiding as this beggar, and
Yeah.
you got all these clues as far as the jacket with the coins, and also this one starts out really odd. It's very strange,
Yeah.
where it starts out with Watson going to help a friend of his
Yeah.
whose husband is in an opium den, and while he is there, he sees Holmes there at the opium den,
Yeah.
which is an interesting sort of part of Sherlock Holmes
Yeah.
to have that.
There was quite disorienting music in the opium den, wasn't there?
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
just sort of a weird thing, I think, to have your hero of your sort of story that's has these addictions and has these things, but obviously he's doing it partly to as part of his detective work, but still,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just sort of an interesting part of Sherlock Holmes, I think, and it's
If you know Holmes in to that degree, and you know that he does dabble in drugs a little bit, that he does make you a little bit worried for him to see him in an opium den.
yeah.
I think he says he basically uses the drugs to kind of cope with the times where he's not being stimulated by a mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this one has the other Watson by Edward Hardwick.
Edward Hardwick.
Yeah. Than the Speckled Band. So it's sort of interesting, and they're very similar. So there's not a huge difference, I guess. But but I really like the guy who plays the man with the twisted lip, and this whole conceit of sort of this man from this rich man who decides to become a beggar because he can make more money begging than he can doing whatever else he was doing, and so he hides it out, and he doesn't want to sort of admit. Do you buy that he would keep it the secret as long as he does, even go to jail?
Keeping it a secret, I suppose, it would be possible. I'm quite surprised he was able to make that much money from begging to live such a impressive lifestyle.
They do make a lot of money sometimes. These depending on, I've seen exposés and stuff even now that they can make a ton of money. But yeah, I guess he was particularly charismatic the way he would quote Shakespeare and sort of entertain people, and it sounds like he had kind of regulars who would give him money, so that probably helped quite a bit.
Yeah. Like I say, the acting, particularly in the guise of Boone the beggar, is really good. And I did quite like the way they handled that washing scene with like Holmes looking quite intense and holding the rag up to the camera, almost in like this threatening way.
Yeah. I think it's really good, and I don't know. I just think that this is also a really good one of Holmes completely owning Scotland Yard. Like they are so wrong. They see all the same clues, but they don't understand them the way that Holmes does. I mean, he is just on a whole nother level, which I always enjoy. That's a fun element when he when Lestrange and the crew at Scotland Yard look like idiots.
Oh yeah. When it turns out that the husband is the beggar, you kind of think it is the maybe trying to figure solutions. It is the most obvious one for what's been going on, the most logical one. But then you kind of get the extra elements of just trying to figure out why would he do something like that. So I quite liked how that was done.
Yeah, I like that. This one review I read said that it says here, but above all, Brett enjoyed representing Holmes immersed in the stillness of a deep meditation, and when perched on his oriental divan, he smokes and meditates until the sun rises and the truth dawns on him. The scene is quite spellbinding.
Yeah, I like that bit, seeing him at the window with the smoke around him.
Yeah.
And then him washing his face and then just kind of clapping his hands together as he figures it out.
Yeah. It's really
he just seems to become possessed once he has the answer, doesn't he?
Yeah, it says, however, there is no monotony in Brett's acting, for as soon as he has found the key to the riddle, his Holmes becomes again the admirable, eccentric, and an entertaining embodiment of indefatigable energy.
Yeah.
I'd agree. I'd agree. I don't know. I just really enjoy. I think the woman is actually pretty decent in this one too. I mean, she's strong enough to still believe, I guess, in her husband and believe that he's alive. And I don't know. It's interesting.
I was really convinced by her performance. You can kind of get that you kind of believe how emotional she is over this situation and trying to hold it all together. I thought it was a very good performance.
Yeah. So, So that's it. Do you have others of the Jeremy Brett that you particularly like, or
I think what I would probably call best is the Solitary Cyclist.
Okay.
And the Final Problem. I can't remember off the top of my head any other individual ones I've remembered. There was the I think it was Fallbridge with the the murder that was actually a suicide.
Oh yeah. That's good.
Like the gun on the rope and the weight.
Yeah, the Dancing Men is really good. I like that one. That he has to put together this. There's this clue of this the Dancing Men, and the Norwood Builder. I like. There's so many good ones.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I guess we covered all four. But what do you think? Before sort of our final, why do you think that Sherlock Holmes has been so popular and remains so popular to this day? What do you think is about the character and the stories and everything like that?
I suppose he appeals to people in the same way like a superhero does. It's just great to watch someone doing these amazing things, and also you kind of feel like you could do that if you were able to think in quite the same way.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And I think that he's a character that is easily placed in any era. Like you can have him in the 1940s, you can have him in 2017, whatever, and it just works. Like it's not a character that feels tied down to a particular era or style or whatever.
Yeah, in fact, in the first of the Universal films, when they first moved Sherlock Holmes into the 1940s, they actually put this little message on screen that says, Sherlock Holmes, the immortal character of fiction created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, is ageless, invincible, and unchanging. In solving significant problems of the present day, he remains, as ever, the supreme master of deductive reasoning. But that was their justification.
Yeah. That says it as good as you can say it.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think there is that appeal of that we could maybe be like Sherlock if we thought of things and we broke it down and broke down the clues and they're really good stories. They're good. People like. I think there's just something timeless about good mystery stories.
Yeah. Conan Doyle, he really crafted these great mysteries, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
He just to make you guess what the answer was.
Mm-hmm. So. All right. Well, cool. Well, thanks so much for joining me with this. This was fun. Like I said, it was something Sherlock Holmes is just something my dad loves so much. So it was definitely something I grew up with, and it's fun to talk about him with you. And I definitely want to watch more of these these Basil Rathbone ones because I thought that it was very entertaining.
Yeah. So I recommend the Hound of the Baskervilles best. It was I think that's probably the best one. Okay, cool. Yeah.
All right. Well, where can people find you?
My Twitter is pnerichard. I have a blog, velociraptor256.wordpress.com. I also have my own YouTube channel, which is just Richard Southworth.
Cool. And you've been doing your top 10 favorite movies.
Yeah, that's right. I've done 6 so far.
Yeah, they've been really good. I've enjoyed them.
Oh, thank you.
So, all right. Well, I'll have links in the description section. You guys can check it out. And we will see you guys. We will figure out something to talk about for September, October-ish time. And we'll let you know when that's going to be. It'll be fun. So, and you can find me at Smiling LDS Girl on social media. The next podcast I have planned is on Thursday. I am going to be meeting with Christine for the Chick Flicks podcast. We're going to be talking about Bridge over the River Kwai. And actually on Sunday, I'm going to be doing a summer movie wrap-up review or whatever with my friend David. We did a preview, so now this is will be the wrap-up. So that should be fun too. So something to look forward to. And thanks so much.
Okay.